Hello, hello. Welcome to an early morning Southeast Iowa Union Sports Talk. Santa brought it early again.
Yep.
So get your breakfast out very early in the morning, 9:30. No one else is awake by 9:30, so you guys are all probably getting out of bed. Get your PJs on. Pull out your breakfast cereal. I got my breakfast right here. Unsponsored. Cocoa Pebbles, top 5 probably.
Pebbles too.
Fruity Pebbles are awesome. Actually, these are almost done. I might go Fruity Pebbles next. You're watching this. Where are they watching the show, Hunter?
Well, if you're on YouTube, you're watching it at Washington Live YouTube. Also find us at Washington Live Facebook, Fairfield and Mount Pleasant Live's Facebook as well, and then we're also on Spotify. So if you want to check us out at a couple different sites there, it's got some options.
For sure, and I wanted to start this show off today with an accusation, if that's okay with you.
Go right ahead.
So last week, my man Hunter was in charge of tweeting out the link. I would like to accuse you that you didn't actually put the link in the tweet. Oh, I wish I could find the tweet. I was reading through our lead.
Now that I think about it, I don't even remember copying and pasting.
I looked at our Twitter. I was like, oh, the show from 2 times ago is pinned. And I was looking for it. I was like, oh, I'll just go pin it. And it's just a tweet that says, Andy and Hunter is talking about summer sports. And there's just no link. So that was funny.
Yeah,
that reminds me. I should probably pin our tweet today. So if you go to at Union Sports page, that is our social media with the main. That's our main social media. That's the big one. And so we pin the show, and then we obviously have updates from all the games, stuff like that. By the way, Nick Steffen's on the 1s and 2s. Thanks for coming early, Nick. I think he probably prefers it because then he probably can do something else at 1:00 today. So we're gonna talk. We had a busy, but not as many teams because we're late in the baseball softball postseason. So we're going to talk a little big school baseball first because I'm fresh off. I feel like I just came from the field in Marion last night.
Yeah, you basically did.
It was a late one for a 5-inning game especially. So I'm going to jump back. Before I talk about the Marion game, I want to talk about this weekend's wackiness. It was Mount Pleasant and Fairfield, and it was probably one of the wildest situations that we've faced this year in our local sports, especially with 2 of our teams facing each other. So Panthers and Trojans, one of the closer rivalries in all the sports, I think, in the SEC. Mount Pleasant and Fairfield baseball for the longest time basically was the conference championship. You'd show up to the doubleheader, and it'd be like, this is when the SEC is decided. Then they kind of dipped together a little bit. Now they're kind of both on the way up a little bit. So throughout me even being in Southeast Iowa, they've always been close enough to where there's not a lot of blowouts. In fact, funny enough, so coming into Friday night's game, Fairfield had won 2 out of 3, and Fairfield won 1 game by 6, 1 game by 13. And I remember talking to Coach Josh Allison at Fairfield saying that it really didn't even feel like a Fairfield Mount Pleasant game because there were a couple of blowouts this year. Not what we got on Friday night. So show up to the field 7:00, Hunter. Maple Leaf Athletic Complex in Mount Pleasant. Looks like a typical kind of knockdown, drag-out game. Well, pitcher's duel between Tate Allen and Ben Newton. Fairfield scored a couple in the 3rd to go up 2-0, which the way Tate Allen has been pitching, especially against Mount Pleasant this year because he shut him out earlier, that was a big couple of runs. Those were Landon Nordorf had a RBI single, 2 outs up the line, and then Cody Burleson had a RBI double, so that made it 2-0. Go back to the bottom of the 4th. Mount Pleasant gets a couple. Carter Amos had a RBI double. Elliot Cook had an RBI. Garrett Cook, Elliot Cook, that's a name from a while back. Had a RBI double, tied it up. Get to the bottom of the 6th. And that's when Mount Pleasant takes their first lead. Carter Amos double to another RBI double. Carter's basically doubles every time at the plate by now. And so it's 3-2. About the bottom of the 6th, the rain is just starting to drizzle down. You're like, oh, it's getting kind of bad out there. Which it's a close game in a pitcher's duel. And at this point, Talon Bates is in, relieving for Fairfield. Jake Ensminger's in for Mount Pleasant. And the ball's slippery. It's kind of a wild. Have you had any games like that this year where it's like You just know it's chaos when the rain starts
Yeah.
because the playoff game, they don't want to postpone it.
Don't think I ever got rained on.
Really? Oh, well, I did.
I
Just
was
let me tell
there
you.
right after a rain, but that
Yeah.
was, late in the season, Van Buren, Eddyville, Blakesburg softball. But
Oh, like on the way home?
yeah,
It was wild. And in fact, so Fairfield loads the bases, 2 outs. Talon Bates, the same kid who came in, and he got out of the inning after Carter had that RBI double, so it was 3-2. Talon Bates comes in, wiggles out of it, so it's only 1-run game. Then the top of the 7th, bases loaded, gets hit by a pitch with 2 outs. Real big emotional moment there because he was actually 1 strike away from Mount Pleasant winning it right there. Then it's tied 3-3. Insminger gets the next guy strikeout. So bottom of the 8th, a bunch of wacky stuff happens. Mount Pleasant gets the first guy on a hit by pitch. Runner gets thrown out at third, so there's 1 out. They got another out some other way. Basically, it ended up runners at first and second, 2 outs, and Cook was up to bat. Ball 1, the rain's coming down. Ball 1, like right when the ball hits the mitt, the rain that was coming down started going like 4 times heavier.
Oh, no.
And so they had to postpone it in the bottom of the 8th and come back the very next day. It's supposed to be at noon, ended up at 2 o'clock. So we literally got to a situation where it could have been 1 pitch. Mount Pleasant could have won it on 1 swing of the bat. So Fairfield could have came down, like we could have all went to the field and it could have been over. That didn't happen. Nope, that could have been a 5-minute game. Fairfield's Aiden Kruger comes in, 3 straight strikes, gets out of that inning. In the 9th, Zarek Fanghaus strands a couple of Trojans. So Fairfield doesn't score, and then Mount Pleasant hit by pitch, walk. Fanghaus steps up to the plate, nobody out, bases loaded. First pitch lined into the outfield. So Mount Pleasant 4, Fairfield 3, and I think it was 19 and a half hours between when we started and we finished.
that's pretty crazy.
It is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I remember I was looking up the scores and I was like, well, not too many score. What's going on over here? And then I saw your tweets about,
Yeah.
yeah, we're going to wait until tomorrow for this one.
Yeah, I thought about doing something for the show. I thought about cutting like a nice little video for the show with my phone when I was pouring like a little news update, but then it was pouring, so I was gonna stand out there on the field and be like, I'm coming live from Maple Leaf Athletic Complex.
Just getting drenched.
Just getting drenched. Yeah, it was really, it's funny because at Maple Leaf there's a really small fence to get out to the parking lot. I mean, when it came down, it was just chaos because all the fans from both teams were getting out to the parking lot, but you have to squeeze through. Yeah. It's not the best place for like dashing to the parking lot, and so yeah, it was pretty funny. But it was a pretty wild game. And then last night, Mount Pleasant did give number 5 Marion a little bit of a sweat. 3 runs in the first inning. Carter Amos had a 2 RBI double to off the deep center field fence to start things off. So it was 3-0. Marion comes back with 5. Mount Pleasant scores 2. Marion comes back with 7. Mount Pleasant scores 3. That's that cut it to 15-8, and then that cut it to 12-8, and then Marion 3 in the 4th and 3 in the 5th to close it out 18.
They must have really had the bats going then.
Marion is very good. This kid Miles Davis, not to be confused with the singer. He led 1 inning off with a homer, and then he had a bases clearing triple on the exact same inning. So he was a stud. So that was tough. But Carter Amos had a couple of RBIs in that one last night. Insminger started on the mound. Vinghaus came in relief. They both had goods and bads, but 2 outs. Marion, I think, scored 9 runs with 2 outs. And it was one of those situations where it'd be like 2 outs, guy on first, and then, little dribbler. Now we got guys in first and second. There's a walk, single, and it would just kind of plateau from there. Let's see. Zarek Fanghaus had an RBI single. Jake Insminger had an RBI single in there. Let's see here. Peyton Walker, who pitched a little bit right at the end, he had a crazy 2 RBI triple. So the outfield was really bouncy, and so he had one little looper into the outfield, hits the turf. The center fielder, like it bounced higher than the center fielder could possibly leap up. Whoa. So it almost had an inside the park home run on that. That was pretty crazy towards the end of the game. So it was kind of just a wild game. But Mount Pleasant's out. Marion is through. I believe they play Xavier, and that means big school baseball wise, we're all done. But we got one more game to talk about because Washington went up, not to Assumption, but to North Scott. How'd that happen?
Went over to North Scott and took on, as you mentioned, Davenport Assumption. Number 8 team in Class 3A there. Just a tough one, tough matchup for the Demons. And this one against the number 8 Knights, 10-0 in Assumption's favor ends Washington's season. Really, it was a close game for 3.5 innings. Assumption jumped out with 2 runs in the first, and Washington was able to hold them scoreless for the next 2 innings. And in the fourth, they added 2 more, and then really piled it on in the fifth with 6 runs. Ended it after 5 innings there, 10-0. Really, it was up until that point, it was a pretty defensive, really a kind of a defensive battle. And Washington was staying right there, but just really couldn't get it going at the plate. Mentioning that at the plate, they only had 1 hit and held to 1 hit. Sophomore Aaron Boone had that lone base knock there on the mound. Senior Isaac Vetter started on the hill. He gave up 2 runs on 4 hits and 3 innings of action, was striking out 3. With the loss, the Demons finished the season 4-23. They'll lose 5 to graduation. Vetter, Ethan Patterson, James Strabala, Austin Reveling, and Brian Fritz. So, Washington out, as mentioned, no more big school baseball. Got some small schools left, but just a tough overall matchup for Washington. And it's always kind of a tough draw when you're drawing, the Davenport team, especially like Assumption, because they seem to always be at the top. But
yeah, Assumption is the one team that you don't want to face. And speaking of Washington and Assumption, we will be leading off after this commercial break with a little Washington Assumption softball. So softball fans come back. Small school baseball fans. We got you after the second commercial, so stick around. We still got lots to talk about here on Southeast Iowa Union Sports Talk.
We'll be
Federation
back.
Bank is a locally owned bank providing award-winning customer service. We believe that we are more than just a federation of banks, but a federation of communities, serving Brighton, Richland, Wellman, and Washington, Iowa. Federation Bank's highly skilled staff is here to make sure you are able to accomplish your personal and professional goals, whatever they may be. Federation Bank, your family bank.
Hospice isn't a place, it's a type of care that focuses on living. Servicing a 7-county area, the Hospice of Washington County staff of nurses, social work, hospice aides, spiritual and grief support, volunteers, music and massage therapists are able to provide free end-of-life care where the patient lives. We write wills, give consent for organ donation, but rarely is there a plan for what we would want the final phase of our lives. At Hospice of Washington County, we encourage our patients to be in charge of their healthcare decisions while maintaining quality of life.
Unbelievable amount of devastation. I've never seen anything like it.
We had a beautiful barn that was gone in 20 minutes.
Farm Bureau stepped up right away and said, hey, we got you and we'll be there for you.
We were taken care of. Now we could get on to repairing and rebuilding.
I tell everybody about Farm Bureau.
We're fortunate to say we have good coverage with good people doing it.
Contact Farm Bureau agents Tony Starr and Mike Welcher in Mount Pleasant today.
Tammy takes the time and has the personal interest in each one of us. I don't worry about what's going to happen because I know my policy is taken care of.
She pulls what I need and puts it together, which is the program I get from her.
Every year she calls around September or so and says, there's changes again, and I'm going to do the best thing for you. It's been perfect. She does a great job.
At the Capper Auto Group, we put our customers' needs first and understand that everyone is as different as the vehicle they select. We offer new Ford, Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, and Ram vehicles in a friendly environment that puts you in the driver's seat. When it comes to service, we maintain factory-trained technicians and competitive pricing. The Capper Auto Group still believes that service after the sale provides the best customer experience. Come see the Capper experience for yourself.
When you aspire to be a dancer, you are both an artist and an athlete. Your strength combines with beauty and grace seamlessly. Your efforts result in enhanced coordination, the ability to cooperate and compromise with others, and the confidence to perform in front of an audience. Not to mention the fun you will have and the lifelong friendships you will develop. We are enrolling now for fall classes, and we would love to see you shine like the star that you are. Join us for Dance and Tumbling at Stairway to the Stars. Please visit our website for online registration.
Hello, watchers and listeners of Southeast Iowa Union Sports Talk, powered by Fairway Food Stores. Who are we powered by, Hunter?
Fairway Food Stores.
We forgot to say at the beginning of but
I thought about that and then I forgot, but then you said it.
Oh, really? We can interrupt sports talk, talk about Fairway anytime you want.
Right.
Forget it. So,
go get yourself some meat.
Yeah, that's right. And one of us is going to be in Burlington tonight.
Yeah.
We got a Fairway. Tell me we got a Fairway. Yeah, we got a flip for that maybe at the end of the show.
Yeah,
figure out where we're going. What was I going to say? Oh, we're going to talk about some softball. So, Hunter, so I took the trip last night. You took the trip the night before or 2 nights before to go to lovely Assumption High School, Davenport, Iowa. To watch Washington softball. Softball team did play in Davenport.
Correct.
Unlike the baseball team, the same exact matchup took place in North Scott. So, tell me what you saw over in Deeport.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about it being a real enticing matchup. Obviously, Assumption, number 2 in Class 3A on the softball field. Obviously, Demons just jumped into the rankings in the final rankings. They're number 14. Real tough out of the gate for the Demons. They got sat down right in the top of the first there, and then the Knights brought in 3 runs in that first inning. Sent all nine of the lineup to the plate in the bottom of the first there. 5 of the 9 notched hits, including a 2 RBI double and a pair of RBI singles, and they led 4-0 after that first inning. And really, that was all they would need. Washington never gave up though. 8th grader Colby Greiner gave the Demons their first hit of the game with a single there in the second. But 3 straight outs followed, and the Demons only sent, if this makes any sense, the Demons only sent 4 batters, as much as 4 batters in any inning.
So they never got 2 on. Basically.
So basically, usually you're gonna have to send, get some more on to help you win there. But really, Assumption's pitcher was, probably one of the best that I've seen this season. 2 hit the Demons. That Greiner hit was one of just 2 hits in the game. Freshman Leighton Salazar had the other Demon hit, and that came in the 6th inning. So quite a little bit of difference there from the 2nd inning to the 6th inning there, tallying a hit. And then after a scoreless second, Assumption added 3 more runs in the bottom of the 3rd to make it 7-0, and those were the final runs of the game. And then Isabel Salazar gave up 7 runs, 6 earned on 9 hits in the circle there. And then Colby Greiner came in and pitched 3 innings as well, giving up just 1 hit. And with the loss, the Demons end the season 24-13. And then, as we've talked about, they only lose 1 senior and Haley Mitchell there. So future's looking bright for the Demons. Ran into kind of a buzzsaw, and it's always a tough draw when you see Assumption on the other side of the bracket because, I guess we could say they've been good in every sport this season, and especially on the girls' side. So just kind of a tough one for the Demons there. But
yeah, that's tough. And speaking of the Demons, I saw them on Thursday, so they had to even get to that game.
Yep.
They had to win. It was a really wacky 3A softball was really tough. There were a lot of good teams, and not almost no bad teams in this area. And so that put Central Lee. Central Lee was a good team. They won the South. They went into Washington on Thursday. And Washington crushed them 10-1. Speaking of that lone senior, Haley Mitchell 3 for 3 with 4 RBIs in that one. So she had a huge game in her last game. Her last home game for the Demons, Colby Greiner had an RBI. Lauren Hendrickson had an RBI. Leighton Salazar had a trifecta of hits. Ella Greiner had 2, and a big pitching performance by Bella Salazar in that one. 105 pitches, 2 hits given up, and 1 earned run. So that really showed that, showed me that the offense was pretty hungry, but clearly the Assumption pitching staff can shut down some really good teams.
Yeah.
So,
had like an ERA of like 0.98, 9.96, something like that.
and so we'll talk. Well, you'll have the Fairfield game coming up, but just to jump ahead tonight, Assumption has that regional final game, and
we're going to figure out right now who it's against.
Figure out who they're taking on, because you went to the Fairfield softball game. Tell me how that. I listened to a little bit of stuff on the radio on the way back home from Washington that night. This is on Thursday, but I had that all play out.
Yeah, I mean, going in, we expected it to be a pitcher's duel. Obviously, we're seeing some of the best pitchers around the area. In Fairfield's Cody Engel, and then West Burlington's Lauren Summers. It did not disappoint. Obviously, in the end, the Trojans came up short 2-1. 9 innings needed to be played to decide this one. Mentioned the pitchers battle. Both pitchers ended with double-digit strikeouts. I believe Summers had 12. Engel finished with 10, and Engel allowed 7 hits in the game. Really, heading into the 7th inning, obviously it was tied 1-1. Neither team scored in the 8th, and then came the 9th. Fairfield had a great opportunity to kind of put some pressure on the Falcons heading into the bottom half of the 9th. After a pair of outs, quick outs to start that inning, Engel hit a single up the middle, followed by Savannah Hollander walk, and then Olivia Hollander singled up the plate and loaded the bases with 2 outs. Lily Bergeron got a shot to really put some pressure on him heading into the bottom of that inning. Hit a really nice hard ground ball towards third, but the third baseman was able to corral it and throw it home, and that would be the Trojans' final trip to the plate. They started the bottom of the frame with the strikeout from Engel, but really, up until this point, pretty clean game from Fairfield in the field. Back-to-back errors really cost them in the end. West Burlington hit a pair of ground balls. Both were misfielded, and instead of heading into another 10th inning, the Falcons has runners at first and second, and then a pass ball moved those runners to second and third. And then West Burlington's Lauren Krieger hit a fly ball to left field. Amelia Miller was able to catch it, but the ball was just deep enough. She tried throwing it home, just didn't get there in time, and the Falcons walked it off in the bottom of the 9th inning there. So, a real tough way to lose it after really hard fought battle on both sides of the ball there. So, West Burlington moves on with a 2-1 victory. Fairfield finishes the season 13-15, and I also should mention in the first inning, West Burlington scored in the bottom of the first, and then lone 8th grader on Fairfield squad, Leah Helmick scored late. Lainey Norris in the top of the 4th to tie that up, all the way into the 9th there. So tough end for Fairfield, but great season nevertheless, especially after losing a lot of talent from last year.
Yeah, I thought they showed that the younger kids are going to build that back up pretty well. They actually probably they were a lot closer than you would expect. Not only those a couple of seniors, but then a couple of kids got hurt before the season, so a lot of their lineup was new. I think maybe they had 2 hitters from last year's lineup.
I think it was something like
Savannah Hollander and Cody Engel, I think, were the only 2 that were really consistent hitters. So it's funny enough. So the Washington game got done early, so I was listening to that game on the radio on the way back, and I was listening to that game, and Mount Pleasant was playing at Keokuk in the 4A tournament. And they were both coming down to the wire, so I unfortunately listened to Fairfield get walked off and Mount Pleasant get walked off within probably 30 seconds of each other because I was going pitch by pitch, click, 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 click to their 2 radio stations. Mount Pleasant played a really good game in Keokuk up until the last, really just the 7th. So Panthers fall 8-7 in Keokuk in postseason play on a walk-off walk. In fact, I believe there's a walk to tie it and a walk to win it. Keokuk scored the last 5 runs of the game, including 4 in the bottom of the 7th. So Mount Pleasant was up at 1 point, 7-3 in this thing. Mm-hmm. Sage Burchett, 0 homers coming into that game. She's only a freshman, but 0 career homers. Hits 2 bombs, 1 in the 3rd and 1 in the 4th. Mount Pleasant's going to have a lot of power coming up because a lot of their more power hitters are the younger kids. Addison Clark's another one that had a couple of big homers, but they really hit the ball. Mount Pleasant did, and they hadn't. They've been kind of hot and cold as far as offense wise. But Sage Burchett is up with. She went 3 for 5. She had a double and 2 homers. Obviously, her best game of the year batting wise. Joellen Martin, who pitched the entire game for Mount Pleasant, went 3 for 4. A couple hits from Kinley White, couple hits from Jaden Hausch. From Doug from the Fort Madison Daily Democrat was covering that game, and he was talking about how many running and diving and leaping catches the outfielders are making and how Mount Pleasant was playing such great defense. 6 of the 8 runs that Keokuk scored were earned, which if you follow a lot of the Mount Pleasant softball games, a lot of times we'll say, they gave up 8 runs and like 3 of those were earned, and that's usually the problem. So they played pretty solid defense. By the way, those runs, the game tying and game winning runs for Keokuk, came with 2 outs. So Mount Pleasant was 1 strike away from getting out of that one. So you could it was double heartbreak on the radio, just flipping back and forth. So really tough result there. Mount Pleasant is up 5-25. They have a few kids that they lose, Ella Winknamy, Jaden Hausch, and Jersey Beachy, but they got a lot of talent coming back next year, and kind of like Washington, where they have a lot of talent that is young, sophomores, freshmen, 8th grade. So
we see that a lot too.
Yeah. Right now, the softball teams are pretty darn young. And speaking of, we should jump to a couple of our smaller schools.
Couple heartbreakers.
Yeah, a couple real heartbreakers. So on Friday night, I was at the Mount Pleasant Fairfield game, and you were gone on Friday night.
Yep.
And so I was paying attention to the Cardinal Regina softball game. And I was at Regina 2 years ago when the Regals walked off Cardinal to go to state. Mm-hmm. And then I covered last year's regional final when Cardinal lost 2-0 to Louisa Muscatine. And in that game, Cardinal had, I think they might have out-hit them. They definitely had 2 or 3 different spots where it looked like they were about to take the lead. So they've been heartbroken the last couple of years. Hasn't been the greatest season record-wise for them, for as good as they are. They play in the SCC, which I think went something like 9-1 or something in the postseason, like in the first 10 games, the conference as a whole. But they lost 3-2 on a walk-off 2-run double. It was actually 2-0 heading into the bottom of the 6th. Regina scores 1 in the 6th and 2 in the 7th. I think they scored all their 7th inning runs with no outs. So tough one, but I mean, that's the defending champions, Regina, number 1.
Number 1 seed.
Nicoa McClure only gives up those 3 runs. He had given up 1 run. In fact, I believe the first run was unearned, so really 0 earned runs going into the 7th. And you talk about teams that have a lot coming back. Cardinals one of those. So Emma Becker was 2 for 4 with double and an RBI. She was hurt for a lot of sports this year, so it was good to see her kind of. I really noticed she was kind of getting back into form during softball season as far as getting a lot of hits. Ava Farrell had a hit. Ashlyn Patrick had a hit, and Brindley Ostrander had an RBI. But yeah, Cardinal, everyone except they lose a big one because they lose Kinsey Hissam there.
Yep.
Not only their 3rd batter, but a really, really good center fielder for them. But Cardinal will be back in a big way next year, I think. And they got plenty of hard games with the SEC stuff. But we said before that Cardinal was one of those teams where you wouldn't be surprised if they ended up as state.
Yep.
And that was pretty darn close to get into the regional final.
Yeah, and it's just tough too because we've seen them come so close, and it's we know that we knew that they could play with the best teams because they've played close with Davis County and all those teams at the top, and it's tough to see a team that is leading for that long and then it's just it just slips away at the end. It's always heartbreaking, especially when it's a team you cover and you're like,
Yeah, exactly. Well, and speaking of that, I also covered the Highland game.
Yeah.
Speaking of teams that didn't have the record that we thought they would, but that we said could be at state, they were playing Wapello in just the quarterfinals.
Yep.
But because of the way the bracket set up, you kind of feel that Highland could have beaten anybody in the bracket.
Yeah.
Ended up losing 3-2. They were up 2-0 going into the 7th. They had a lot of spots where they probably could have added on to the 2-0. But honestly, going into the 7th inning, I think was this the one I went to Thursday night, or was this Wednesday night? We already talked about this game?
No, I don't think we've talked about this one.
I don't know. Last week you had a Thursday.
I think we did actually.
But just to reiterate, Jessica Kraus pitched an awesome game, and then the very end. It wasn't just Jessica Kraus. Grace Pryble will come in to relieve her and got out of a big jam. So they had combined shutout Wapello, and it was dribbler, walk, and then the big one, the kid Tatum Wolford. Yeah, we did talk about. She bats about 650.
Yep.
And she had a 2 RBI hit. So both Cardinal and Highland not only lost on a walk off, but lost on a 2 RBI hit, meaning they were leading, and then boom, it was over. That was also 2 outs. So heartbreak city.
Yeah, and the other the other 2 games with teams that we had left after the first round action, we had Columbus taking on West Liberty. Kind of similar. I guess the West Liberty Columbus one's a little bit higher scoring, I guess you could say, but a tight one nevertheless in the end. West Liberty comes out 8-6 over Columbus, ends their season. The Wildcats end 11-10. West Liberty scored 3 runs in the first inning. Columbus fought back, though, 2 runs in the third and then 3 in the fifth to take a 5-3 lead, but then the Comets scored a trio of runs themselves in the bottom of the fifth, and then would never trail again, added 2 more in the sixth. Columbus answered with 1, tried to rally in the seventh with 1 run, but couldn't get it done, and they season over for the Wildcats. Some pretty good players, young players that we cover over there, and Lily Coyle, Kennedy Woping, both underclassmen. Obviously, they lose Jocelyn Fulton, who's a great player.
She went yard in that game.
Yeah.
By the way.
Looking at the stats, Coyle 2 for 3. Jocelyn Fulton mentioned, as you just mentioned, home run, 2 for 4, 2 RBIs, and Araceli Garza. 2 for 3, and then Daniel Diaz 1 for 3 there. So tough end of the season for them, but a lot of young talent as well.
By the way, West Liberty so that was in the exact same bracket as the Fairfield games. West Liberty narrowly lost to West Burlington, who's playing
Assumption,
which means, and considering how close all those games are, anybody from that bottom spot could have been playing Assumption.
Right.
They were all super close together.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and then the last game out of the 3A bracket, rematch from the regular season, Center Point Urbana versus Mid Prairie. The Pointers, which is I always think is a kind of cool little name they got there.
Yeah.
The Center Point Urbana Pointers, Storm and Pointers, which is I think is pretty awesome. Yeah. But anyway, the Storm and Pointers down the Golden Hawks 3-1 end their season. Really, it was a tight one throughout. Center Point Urbana scored late and just never basically gave up the lead. Great game from another one of our younger players that we cover, sophomore Dakota Mitchell, 3 for 3. 1 hit off the cycle, needed the home run for the cycle there. Sydney Nebel and Hannah Sellers and Cadence Grant all each had a hit as well, with Nebel tallying the lone RBI for the Golden Hawks there. They end their season 16-21. So we officially have no softball teams left.
Softball season is over in the Southeast Iowa Union Sports, but not softball covers, because we still got our all conference,
all union,
all union teams we got to pick. That'll be a pretty tough one in softball. No complaints allowed on that. Maybe we'll have a smoothing it over show of Southeast Iowa Union Sports Talk where people can air out if we pick the wrong kids.
Yeah.
And then softball. That's kind of sad. It's really sad. Softball season's over.
Yeah.
And we have just a little bit of baseball left. But we'll talk about that.
Decided tonight.
Yeah, we'll be decided tonight. We'll definitely have one team.
Yeah, we'll have one team. Yep.
Yeah, we'll at least have one team. We'll talk about who it might be and what's going down tonight when we come back from this commercial break.
Yes, sir.
Family owned and operated by Andy and Sarah Ross, Ross Auto has been your vehicle repair and maintenance headquarters since 1935. We specialize in all makes of cars and light-duty trucks. With our variety of available services, let us help you keep rolling and your vehicle operating efficiently. Services include general auto repair, alignments, brakes, fuel injection, and more. Schedule your appointment today at 319-653-5656. That's 319-653-5656.
At 5 Star Community Credit Union, we want to help you lead a better life. We offer competitive rates and convenient appointment times for all kinds of loans: auto, recreational vehicles, home equity line of credit, holiday, and personal loans. We make it easy to build your credit and enjoy the good things in life.
We invite you to join 5 Star Community Credit Union. We are community-minded and member-focused. Come visit our locations in West Burlington and Mount Pleasant or online at 5starcu.org. Federally insured through the NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
At Brown Shoe Fit, we pride ourselves on traditional sit and fit service that's been serving the Mount Pleasant area since 1952. At Brown's, we have shoes for the whole family. From kids to adults, we carry the finest footwear for every occasion. Whether you're looking for something for work, casual wear, or exercise, we've got you covered. And don't forget about our selection of safety toe footwear for both men and women. Come visit us 6 days a week and experience the best in traditional sit and fit service. Brown Shoe Fit, where quality and tradition meet.
Bring the kids and share the memories from steam engines, antique cars and trucks, tractors, gas engines, and horses. Maybe your memories are of great food from the North Village to the Log Village, or learning how to square dance over at the Dance Barn. This is the place where memories are made. Make plans now to enjoy the history of the past at the 2023 Midwest Old Threshers Reunion, August 31st through September 4th in Mount Pleasant. Visit oldthreshers.com for more details.
Southeast Iowa Union Sports Talk Live. We're going to talk, we'll close the show out with a little preview of what's coming tonight. Hunter, we got, let's talk about the one with both of our teams. First, Van Buren County off a 10-0 skunking of Mediapolis. Lucas Fett with a huge grand slam in that. That earned them a spot in the Class 2A Sub-State 5 final tonight in Ottumwa against Mid-Prairie, who absolutely dominated Durant 11-0. Neither of these teams have given up a run in the tournament so far. Both these teams will have every arm available, I believe. And a while.
I can only assume that Mid-Prairie will be throwing Colin Miller and Van Buren will probably be throwing Taylor Sprouse.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think it's a pitcher's duel. But the lineups for both are really good. It's kind of a weird game because it's one of the real rare games where both teams have just won by so much lately. It's like neither of these teams has not just done, like Van Buren scored the last 24, like 44 runs or something like that. Mid-Prairie has outscored opponents 43-2 in their last 4 games. So wild one there.
Yeah. And really that's a rematch of last year's semifinal, right?
Yes, Mid-Prairie did knock out. Funny enough, Van Buren just beat Meepo. Last year, Van Buren beat Mediapolis, and Mid-Prairie beat Van Buren. So maybe a little revenge factor there.
Yeah.
Mid-Prairie is the home team there. It's definitely a closer game to Van Buren County because it's in Ottumwa. But of course, all the playoff games are neutral and fair.
Except for maybe the next one.
Speaking of neutral playoff games, Hillcrest Academy and Notre Dame will be in the 1A5 final tonight at the very neutral site of
Community Field in Burlington.
So,
interesting draw there, huh?
It's a pretty similar drive. I know, I have to look up on MapQuest what's a longer drive, Kelowna to Burlington or Burlington to Burlington. But the good news for Hillcrest, they're playing really, really well. 8-4 win over Regina the other day.
Notre Dame's been a little shaky. Close one that last one.
Notre Dame almost lost to Moravia.
Yeah.
But I think Notre Dame's got all its arms going. It burned one against Moravia. Hillcrest Academy will not have Luke Schrock. He pitched 111 against Hillcrest. So, so there we go.
Yeah.
What are you expecting tonight? A couple barn burners?
Yeah, I'm expecting both games to be good. I mean, what's kind of funny is all 3 teams have played each other, and Van Buren split with Notre Dame. Mid-Prairie lost to Notre Dame. Hillcrest, I believe, lost close to Notre Dame and won their one match.
Yeah.
I think they played up in Iowa City, I believe.
Yeah, those are 3 super conference teams.
So, we're going to have one team going to state.
No matter what, we're going to have one team going to state, either Mid-Prairie or Van Buren County. And then, assuming there's no rainouts, brackets should be available by tomorrow, whoever wins that game. And then 1A, I think the Hillcrest, Burlington, Notre Dame game is going to be right down to the wire. Both teams are really good at keeping their opponents pretty darn low. So I don't even know what to expect, as good as the pitchers are in Mid-Prairie, Van Buren, because the lineups are also very good.
And regardless of it being at Community Field, I do like taking photos at Community Field. So I guess looking at it from that perspective, you got those nice little seats, sit down.
Yeah, and the one in Ottumwa was the one right off the highway. So 2 really nice
Where
stadiums.
New London played last year.
Yeah, that's right.
That little park there.
Yeah, the last 2 years, actually, I think New London has. I remember covering them. Would you like to flip to decide who's going where?
Let's do it. What do you in my head?
This is how we decide things at the Southeast Iowa Union. This is how we'll close out the show.
Okay.
Okay? One of us is going to the Van Buren County Mid-Prairie game at Ottumwa. One of us is going to the Hillcrest Burlington Notre Dame game at Community Field in Burlington. This is for you, Hunter. Heads, Hunter is going to Burlington, Iowa.
Gotcha.
Tails, Hunter is going to Ottumwa, Iowa.
Let's see.
You ready for this?
Yep, do it.
This is all for Hunter. Heads, Burlington.
Tails, Ottumwa.
Ottumwa. Hunter will be going to Tails. Ottumwa. I'll see you in Burlington, Hillcrest fans, Mid-Prairie and Van Buren fans. Be kind to Hunter today.
Yeah.
And go get some good shots over in Ottumwa. So
hopefully they have a box there. I can't remember if they have one last.
Ottumwa's got a short fence. They don't even need a box.
Oh, true.
Yep, they got a short fence. You can stand right where you normally stand. Ottumwa's a great place. We got 2 great places.
Like
Guaranteed good photos. We'll show them off next week. I'm going to say right now we're going to remember to send the pictures to Nick so we can show off our best photos. But that's it for today.
Yep.
For Fairway Food Store, who powers the Southeast Iowa Union, thank you as always to you guys. Everyone share this stream.
Yep.
Tell all your friends. Southeast Iowa Union Sports Talk. We're not going anywhere, even though by the time we meet again next Tuesday, hopefully
one or two.
We'll have 1 or 2. Well, they might be playing on Tuesday.
True.
So we'll see. But we will see you guys sometime
next week.
Next week, not necessarily Tuesday. We'll keep you updated on Twitter. So, yeah.